If you put your game on a different platform, you're a third-party video game publisher. If you publish your works, your books, your movies, or whatever form of media on a platform that is outside of a platform that you already own and have established, you are a third-party publisher. This is very simple. Why? Because you coming from the outside to that publisher's platform now gives that publisher, who probably already publishes games on their own platform, the right to call you a third-party publisher. In fact, this is a very important categorization that must be made, and we must ensure that when we make the categorization that we keep all of the descriptives very similar across the board. For instance, when we look at, say, PlayStation's financials, if you take a look at that, financial statement in terms of what they were talking about with, all of PlayStation's sold copies of their games and how much software was sold, you'll see that PlayStation actually makes distinctives anyways between first-party software and third-party software. Just in case you were wondering, they did this just a few months ago. While they were talking about 75 million units of their consoles shipped, they also went ahead and talked about their game sales. They talked about which game sales were up, being much the third-party software, and which titles, being the first-party titles, were down. This is how they categorize it. So everybody who published a game on PlayStation that was not PlayStation was considered third-party publisher and publishing third-party software. Even PlayStation themselves acknowledge, or I guess Steam and Epic Games acknowledge PlayStation as a third-party publisher on their platforms. Why? Because these two folk, depending on how you see it, are also publishers in their own right. I say all of this because I remember a few months ago when I made this video that is titled, and it was a dedicated video to this topic, I've discussed it in other older videos, that Nintendo qualifies as a third-party publisher. The industry shifts alter exclusivity expectations. I remember getting some blowback. Well, it wasn't necessarily blowback. It was just a bunch of what I think will be, inconsiderate responses or attempts to try to, in a sense, maybe dogpile on Xbox, while trying to maybe point at me not being careful about my research or the work that I've been doing here on the internet. I know that exclusivity is going to become a thing of the past. Why? Because there's more money to be made out there. Doesn't matter who the company is. At some point in time, they're going to realize that the way for them to grow their business is to reach gamers wherever gamers are. Because among the different gamers who have access to their games via one platform will be gamers who have affinity to their titles. And when the going starts to get interesting, or there doesn't seem to be too much of a cushion, you're more than likely going to see these particular publishers, PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo, exercise their options. An audience member mentioned something to me. They said, in all of these conversations, why is nobody talking about Nintendo actually now being a much more, how would you put it? A much more obvious third-party publisher with its new announcement of its game Pokemon Champions, where it's now going to be taking this game and publishing it day and date on the mobile platform. I said when I read that comment. So what did I do? I went back and scratched my eyes and I reread the comment. It said, Forza is going to sell like hotcakes. But I'm wondering why no one is talking about Nintendo going third party with the announcement of Pokemon Champions being released on the Switch, iOS, Android, with crossplay day and date. I said, what? Treybone408_4? Nintendo is releasing a day and date launch for the Nintendo Switch and the mobile platform? So I ran quickly to my search bar, and behold, just a few hours, I guess, ago, or maybe a day ago, this was announced. I went and I said, nah, maybe they're joking, and I went to the official Pokemon website where they actually do indicate that this game, basically saying, it's not just familiar mechanics you'll be able to bring in to classic Pokemon and Pokemon Home 2. Look forward to cross-platform battles alongside your favorite Pokemon on Nintendo Switch and mobile with a variety of different modes available for your desired experience. What? Was VG telling y'all that Nintendo putting its games on the mobile platform qualified it as a third-party publisher? Was VG telling y'all that Nintendo probably moving to the mobile was its back pocket strategy just in case or on the day that Nintendo felt it necessary to farm more cash from the platform that has more users than Nintendo? Somebody repeat it again and tell me how this whole thing about exclusivity is not predicated on where these particular companies can make money. Tell me again how it is. Because Nintendo understands very carefully that the biggest threat to its own ecosystem is the cell phone. Cell phone technology has been the sleeper all these years, as companies like Samsung, LG, and even Apple themselves have continued to push the envelope where now you can run a game like Assassin's Creed, Mirage. Do you hear what I said? I didn't say Super Mario. I didn't say Mario Kart. I didn't say any of these other games. I went straight to Assassin's Creed Mirage. Yes, you can run AC Mirage on the Apple iPhone, which is insane that you can actually do something like this in this day and age. Hence, this reality puts Nintendo in a very strange place because they now realize that these cell phones have capability to match their devices. I wish I could give you guys a few more examples about this demographics, but nah, I want you guys to actually sit in the suspense. Because if you think about the demographics that actually enjoy, play, own, or at least are given and gifted the Nintendo Switch, that same demographics has access to $1,000 cell phones that I've said before that parents are able to get for a very minimal amount based on their cell phone plans or family plans. And these particular youngins can get their hands on these mobile games or whichever games are coming to the mobile platform and access them where they may or may not be able to take or use their Nintendo Switches. If you see this paradigm, it starts to change up the entire thing. The Switch 2 is coming out, but who's to say, though, that a lot of these youngins who have probably already built a tolerance or I would say affinity to their cell phones and the games they're on are all going to probably now go ahead and flip to the Switch 2 with ease. They'd have to find a way to convince mommy and daddy and uncle and aunt or some extended family member, maybe grandma or grandpa, to hook them up with a Nintendo Switch 2. And if no one is, forthcoming, guess what? They'll play games on where they already have been playing games or where they have access to a lot of these other games, aka their cell phones. This may just be one game. It's just one off. It's a Nintendo Pokemon game. But you can bet that this threat coming for Nintendo or has already been there and no one, in my opinion anyways, has said anything against it. The biggest gaming market in the whole world, which now has the capabilities that would probably be similar to the Switch or better in a few years or probably very soon with Apple and all these companies pushing technology and their chips and all of that. I think it's safe to say that Nintendo now has to go ahead and fulfill what it's told its shareholders in looking for new players on other possibilities and other platforms. All of you that have been saying about Nintendo, blah, 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 I've told you that the market could not be bothered. It just takes one little disruptor. Sometimes a disruptor may not be gunning for you, but could still disrupt you because you've now seen an intersection in terms of how technology is moving fast. The Nintendo Switch came out in 2017. Think about the youngin that has a Nintendo Switch and how much they've basically been able to see multiple generations of cell phones that they've had access to where they didn't have their Switch actually evolve, where they now have way more power to be able to deal with games on there. Nintendo messed up. The 5 games that they brought onto the iOS and the Android platform seems like they probably were not enough to keep these kids in that regard. Now the kids have what? The final boss of games, Fortnite, at their fingertips. Guys, this thing's about to change, man. I get it. People are going to come out and say, well, Nintendo, they don't spend a lot of money making their games and all that stuff. Man, I don't think the market is concerned about how much they spend making their games. The market is just here to prove if their business strategy is actually good or if it's not good, or if customers are interested in their business strategy or not. And if customers are, they will thrive. If customers aren't, they're going to see fire, thunder, and heavy competition that came from or is coming from a very unexpected source. You would have thought it was PC. But no, PC is busy dealing with Xbox and PlayStation and treating them with very, very heavy and tough gloves. I think Nintendo is going to have to see how the mobile market treats anyone that comes its way. But they already have it as their back pocket plan. I said this months ago that the moment it gets tough, they'll launch on mobile because people can play their games on mobile. And they have access to farming cash as quickly as possible from a market that they don't have to need the barrier of hardware to sell software to. I wonder which other company is doing that. Scratch his head. Talk to me in the comment section. Peace out.